How excited are you to be in Tuscaloosa?
Super fired up. You know, it's one of those games you saw before as the schedules came out. It's like, yeah, I think there's a good chance that we'll be in Tuscaloosa for that one. But, you know, everybody makes a big deal about the playoff, and games aren't as important as they were with a 14 playoff. I don't believe that. Both teams need to know what they have, and they're going to be challenged in ways that only these two teams can challenge each other. So I think it's interesting, the narratives of how good Alabama looked their last game out and how not good Georgia looked. So plenty to prove for the road team. We know the history there. We know that there's a different coach on one side. So as excited as we've been for a game. But again, like going back and knowing that these two teams are going to play a regular season here and we're going to be in the top 5 is awesome.
It's almost been 2 decades since Alabama was a home dog.
Yeah.
Were you surprised to see? I don't know if you've been moved or not, but were you surprised to see them start out at least as a home dog?
Not surprised. Like when you think about it, and you knew what Georgia had coming back, and you thought about the coaching change. I don't think it was a surprise. It was just like, hey, this could be a possibility. And then you do the math, and it is 2007. It's like, wow, Coach Saban's first year. You know, those times were different then. You know, it's a little different, but I really think it's a pick-em game. Both teams are more than capable of what they've shown. Georgia obviously getting healthier and having guys that they didn't have against Kentucky. Alabama, I think, really showed what they thought they were going to have. You know, going into week 1, they didn't have the offensive line until that game in Madison, where you have Pritchett at right tackle, and then you have Proctor at left tackle, and Booker's in his spot. Brailsford's been awesome as a fill-in. Looked like he's put on some pounds, which I thought was going to be a key, because he did play pretty light last year in Washington, and knowing the size of the guys he's going to take on in this conference, but he's been spectacular. He really has. I think he's gotten better every game. So that it makes sense. But again, I think I saw it already went down to 1 this morning. So I mean, if it keeps coming, a home team, people love that stuff. So I can see it being a pick 'em. But that's the way I have it.
How difficult is it to evaluate too when you kind of look like both teams might be holding a little bit back, and we haven't seen a full healthy side of each one, and maybe they're holding some back, you know, from the start of that season?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's really tough going back and watching the tape of Georgia. You know, the offense is there. You know, you get backed up, you're trailing, you're on the road, your defense doesn't have everybody, but they battle their butts off to keep them in the game. And then Carson made throws. The thing that gets lost in that is I think Kentucky's really, really good on defense. So they provided challenges. It was their Super Bowl. You know, they looked as bad as they could against South Carolina, and they came out and they gave an A effort. And Georgia still did what it needed to do to get the win. But I expected better. Carson Beck, you know, it seemed a little hesitant. Got surprised on some blitzes. The offensive line definitely got some, you know, on the road, it's to live another down. You know you have that defense to rely on. So I thought he played to the game plan there and then made plays when they had to. So I think the big matchup, obviously both lines of scrimmage, but I think Georgia's going to want to see if that Alabama could tackle in space. Both sides, for that matter. I think that's a big part of the game. You know, you think about these two teams, you think about the defenses. I think the offenses have more than, you know, they're pretty darn capable. So I do expect I expect both teams to be in the 20s at least.
What's been the biggest takeaway from your end of being around Nick Saban a lot more, being on the game day team? What's the biggest thing you've learned, I guess, about him?
How smart of a man he is.
Yeah.
I don't care what the topic is. You know, we were talking about other teams, watching tape, NIL, everything. You know, quarterback situations, people playing different quarterbacks. The thoughts and the experience that he has, and knowing that he can rely on what happened and then it comes to fruition. His conversation last week about Florida and Florida State, where Florida doesn't have any alignment in their university. And that's, you know, if you're going through 5 coaches and none of them have had success, maybe it's not the coach, you know, but a coach could say that, especially the greatest one of all time. So I mean, smart, every situation, every possible deal that we've come across for a show's sake, he's there and it's outgoing, and when he speaks, there's not a peep in the room. Everybody's trying to get smarter, and it's because of him.
How often do you catch the lighter side of him? Is there moments in between? I know he's really serious, but how often does he kind of show that?
More than I thought. You know, I think it's we're not. I don't know if we're intimidated, but there's a lot that comes with College Game Day. You see the trucks here, you see the sets and the space we take up. There's a lot. And when you go into a room and it's, 12 people in a Zoom call, I think people are all right, I got to see what I got here. So I think it's just getting comfortable. He's got more comfortable, and gets more fun every week. It's been great.
As a sports betting analyst, what do you expect the spread to kind of look like tomorrow? If you kind of had to guesstimate, who do you might have more passing and rushing yards here?
It's funny. I was thinking about that with, Coach is going to dial up tomorrow on the show what they did in the SEC championship game with design quarterback runs to offset Georgia's defense. So immediately it made me think, what's Milroe going to run for, right? Because when you tack on the design runs, which you saw at Wisconsin, it's a total headache for the defense. Now, Georgia's had 2 weeks. They got to see some of that against Wisconsin on tape. They know what happened to them in the SEC championship game. I think both quarterbacks are going to throw. I think there's going to be more offense than defense. From a playmaker standpoint, this game has it where it feels like, in previous games, all the focus has been on the NFL talent on the defensive side. Now, I saw one thing going into the season. It's totally changed because guys are healthy for Alabama. But Alabama didn't have like one mock first rounder on the defensive side. That's obviously changed with what they put on the field the first couple weeks. But I said before, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a pick'em game. That stadium's worth some points for sure. But the talent Georgia has also, and again, the spot that they're in, I don't think Kirby Smart could be in a better situation, knowing that they still are undefeated, but they learned a lot about their team and what they have and maybe what they don't have. So I think adjusting to that, having 2 weeks to prepare is monstrous. So I'd say pick them.
Or some of your favorite props that you've seen, or maybe some interesting props?
I have not. I usually wait till Friday evening to check out that.
Georgia struggled against Kentucky. Do you foresee a different Georgia team tomorrow?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I think a more the offensive line, they roll guys. I know Ratledge is out, but the way they roll guys, I don't think that's going to be that big of a factor. Now, we'll say Alabama, the program guys that they have, those are multiple year guys that had a lot of hype coming in. The defensive tackles with Smith and those guys, they played way above what I thought, or what they put on tape, I would say, in years previous. So that matchup for sure, because when you look at Carson Beck, going back and look at it, he was really uncomfortable. And that was because of Kentucky and what they did. And now Alabama gets to see that. They get to adjust and put their own spin on things. But I think Georgia's offense will be way more focused. I think running the ball will be a priority. When you're down on the road, at Kentucky and they're dicing you up with blitzes, it's hard to get that run game going because you got to throw the football to get back in the game. So I didn't think you saw what Georgia's real game plan was. I think it would be more focused this week with having some balance and getting their guys the ball.
Thank
Anybody
you
else?
so much.
All right.
Thank